Greetings Internet, DDA here, and welcome to another deck profile video that Random Number Gaming is putting in a nice little present to give you Christmas Day. This time we're bringing you Cell Restored Mill Physical Beatdown. If you follow my Twitch channel, I've used this deck several times on my Twitch. It's a very strong variant of Cell that's a little bit different and doesn't use Unleashed. Hyper aggro physical, milling, and ball bouncing. Let's get into the list. So let's just scan over the list real quick. So now you can first see that this deck has a lot of physical attacks, a few utility energies, some good blocks. We got a pretty standard block suite there. Got the flinches there for the ally manipulation. Cell's Provocation. Oh, I just love that card so much. We have a great ally suite here of 6 different allies. And then 4 Dragon Balls. So we're not going for the ball victory, but we are using the balls to help us win the game. So now let's go over the attacks. So now let's go over the attacks here. You can see just how aggro physical this deck is. We play 5 energies, and then we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's 21 physicals. So we play very heavy physical beats. So you can see how much anger we play. We play 3 devastating blows and 3 shoulder slams. Both of them offering anger and anti-anger. There's tons of anger in the format right now, and I knew that ball 2 alone simply wasn't enough, so I wanted to pack my deck with as much anti-anger as I could get away with. And I feel like shoulder slam is also just a really strong card in this deck, being that on your level 2 you do hit the F bracket on your top stage, so it can actually do a lot of damage. And then the sidekicks as well are great for combos. You know, they just do a solid chunk of damage themselves and have great anti-anger attached. Now, both the chest explosions and the backhands are at 3 copies, and these cards could almost be considered a win condition in themselves. Backhand being able to, you know, rip the opponent in for 7 or 8 or 9 stages with Turles ally in play. You could pretty much, I have, killed the opponent in a single combat with just one of these backhands. Very, very strong. And that's kind of where this deck idea came from. So I originally built this deck as more of a hybrid deck with a larger focus on milling. But then when I realized the power of backhand and the power of Cell's level 3 physical, I thought of switching this deck to more of a physical beatdown deck. And then, so I added in a bunch of physicals like Zone Pressure and the Sagacious Strikes as well. Zone Pressure and, of course, the right throws offer you ball shuffling abilities. So we do play balls in here. We don't want the balls to stay in play for very long. We don't have that much defense against capturing. So we want to kind of bounce them in and out of play as fast as possible. And of course, the right throws for additional anger to push us up. Now, this deck, I would consider this a dual victory deck. It can MPPV. I haven't MPPV yet with it, but I've gotten really close. I've been to level 4 with a few anger in several games, and I've threatened MPPV against my opponent. And just the threat of it alone is enough good reason to have that in your deck, because your opponent is going to be playing around that then. So it's not necessarily that you're going to MPPV with this deck, but the threat of MPPV will make your opponent play in a different way against you. Now, I know that a lot of people are playing Cell in Unleashed builds, and you'll see this deck doesn't have Unleashed, and that is by design. I mean, I have Unleashed. I could play it if I wanted, but I don't want to in this deck. So I don't really see a reason to play Unleashed when you get 2 anger from the mastery, 2 anger from your level 1. You're basically level 2 as soon as you start the game. And I'm fine with playing the entire game on level 2 if I have to. There are some situations where the level 3 isn't the best. Sometimes it's hard to activate the 5 mil portion. And, you know, sometimes it doesn't do that much damage. Hey, Ox King is around. It happens. There are decks that play it. Gohan Ally is a very serious threat right now, as well as Goku Ally. So it's possible for this attack to do next to no damage. Well, I'd rather be on the 2 and just mill 4 or 6 every combat, and we're going to go over kind of how the mill stacks up later in the strategy section. But I'm fine with playing the game on 2. I push to 3 most games because of the high amount of anger in this deck, but I just see no reason for Unleashed. It clogs up your draws. You know, you have to play these like mediocre physical attacks like Whack. Whack's okay, but it's not a good attack like in itself. It's a good effect, but it's not a good attack. So, and then likewise, if you play Unleash, you know, like you're instantly getting from the 1 to the 2, you only need 1 Unleashed. So you're playing 3 Unleashed, you know, probably 3 attached cards. You're playing 6 cards dedicated to gain a single level. I think that's overkill, and I just don't see the point of it. So this is the build that's been working for me, and I suggest you try this build out, guys. So, of course, kind of following up to continue here with Zone Pressure. This deck had enough board control with just ball 4, I felt. But against the orange matchup, you really need to banish their drills. You need to. You cannot let the drills in the discard pile. You cannot let them shuffle their drills back into their deck in any way. So the extra zone pressure in this deck just allows me to make sure that my balls are in my deck and not on the field. And likewise, I'm banishing anything on the board that I care about. Probably the greatest card in this deck. It's a great card for a lot of cells, but even more in this build is this card amazing, Cells Draining Attack. Now, I said this deck can threaten MPPV, but I still play 2 Draining Attacks because you can hit and you can banish your own allies and gain anger and still have access to MPPV. So if I'm in a matchup where I want to threaten MPPV, I won't level with it. If I'm in a matchup that doesn't care, I may get 2 levels with this card. I may jump to level 4 with just this card alone. And I've done it several times. This card's amazing. Don't be afraid to banish your allies, guys. It's very easy for you to get allies back from the banish zone with a level 2 and level 3. Don't be afraid, guys. This card's amazing in this deck. And Sagacious Strike, if my opponents would happen to capture my Dragon Balls, I have this in here for that. Likewise, you know, Dragon Ball Victory decks just seem... This deck, it's hard to crit. It is very hard to crit with this deck. So Sagacious Strike was an obvious add. And we kind of already talked about the Bomb Attack Chest Explosion. This thing will come in like a truck for like 10 to 15 damage very often. And then likewise, the 2 Overpowering Attacks just to help us out a little bit more with some ally searching. But not too much because the energy attacks were more of a physical build, so they're more for utility. So that's it for the attacks, guys. So now let's go over the events and blocks. So these are the events and blocks that we're working with. Now, as you can see, we play a lot of physical blocks. We got 6 hard physicals, we got 3 hard energy, and then, of course, 3 hybrid defense. We got the knee blocks in here for endurance and anger. Buffer is just ridiculously strong, and it'll help you activate your flinches. It'll help you activate your knee blocks and provocation as well. Just so strong, like best energy block in like the game right now. Just so powerful. Hybrid defense is insanely powerful in this deck. So yes, I know a lot of decks have strength with hybrid defense, but this is the only deck in which you can hybrid defense and do like 4 to 6 damage to the opponent with Cells Provocation. Cells Provocation is an amazing card. It's just so strong. I would play it at 3 copies. I did play it at 3 copies. And I dropped it down to 2, not because it wasn't effective. I loved it at 3 copies, but just because of space. That's the only reason. Decks are super tight right now. I want to play 3 of these. I may bump it back up to 3. This card's amazing, guys. I know some people have mixed feelings on it, but just try it in this deck. Learn to play with it, and you will see. This card actually has a potential 6 mil. If you have both Cell Jr. Trapped and Cell Jr. Escaping in play, you bounce Escaping to your hand, you'll mill 4 with the Provocation, banish Escaping for another 2. So a 6-card unstoppable damage on the opponent is extremely powerful, plus the Rejuve effect. It's just a great card. It's won me games, hands down. So, of course, we got the flinches in here. They help with the hybrid defenses, with rejuvenation, getting our allies back in play. We don't really use the ball effect too much. In fact, the ball effect sometimes hurts us because all our Dragon Balls that we do play have powers. So there are no Dragon Balls that we play that we want to just throw out. So that's a little bit of a downside, but, you know, it's fine. So we got 2 stare downs and 2 spheres. Pretty standard suite here for against events and killing cards in the opponent's hand. Just this is a semi-control deck. And plus, it's really nice to stare down when you have the backhand combo in your hand. So you can ensure that you're getting your backhand off with Turles in play. Very nice. We got 2 styles in here. Definitely don't want this at 3 copies because there are some matchups like Goku that this is not a good card in. But there are other matchups like Vegeta where this card is amazing in. Or Master Roshi as well. So Vegeta and Master Roshi, this card is just money. Goku, not so much. He usually doesn't play Kamehameha. And even if he did, we don't really want to play that. And then, you know, likewise, at the end game, this really helps out with an additional mill engine and shuffling into your life deck. We got 3 Hurried quests in here. I know I only play 4 Dragon Balls, but the thing about Hurried quests, guys, is that not only do we never want our Dragon Balls in play, so we always want the ability to bounce the Dragon Balls as soon as we play them, but also it increases the mill engine further by allowing us to bounce 7 over and over again. And then likewise, one of the worst matchups this deck has is against Dragon Ball decks. It's very hard for this deck to crit sometimes. So the 3 Hurried quests really help out in that. You can bounce your opponent's Dragon Balls out from the field and just, you know, slow their Dragon Ball victory down. So that's it for the events and blocks, guys. So now let's go over the planning cards. So these are the planning cards that we're working with, guys. We got 10 planning cards, 6 allies, 4 Dragon Balls. The Dragon Balls that we play are very specific here. We play 5, 7, 4, and 2. Obviously, 4 and 2 helps us out with the tech. They help us out against Vegeta, against Goku. We can very easily bounce this in and out of play several times a game. And the strong anti-anger that we have in this deck, basically this deck will never lose against an MPPV deck. It's very, very hard and an uphill battle. So then likewise, obviously we play 7 because that's a main mill engine for this deck. This deck has so much mill, you could almost call it a triple victory deck if you want to consider mill its own mode of victory. I have milled out opponents. I've had opponents time me 3 times in a row, but I'd still win the game with a combination of 7 ball bounce, provocation, the level 2 power, and then Cell style. It's just crazy the amount of mill this deck can do. And then 5, likewise, I wanted some sort of a draw engine in here with the Dragon Ball. I didn't want 3 though, because 3 is a very strong double-edged sword. If the opponent captures 3 on you, you can lose the game pretty easily because of it. So I wanted 5 in here because the rejuvenation will help me activate some abilities sometimes, the extra anger, and then the draw as well. So we got 6 allies in here. We got 5 Saiyan allies, so 5 allies that we can tutor with the level 3. We were playing all 3 Cell Juniors, and I dropped it down to 2 Cell Juniors for a while. I was only playing Escaping and Trapped, but I added the 3rd one back in because there were several times where I wanted bigger Turles modifiers, I wanted bigger Chest Explosion modifiers, so and I had the potential to tutor another Cell Junior, but I wasn't able to do it because I didn't play it. So I added it back in. There are just a lot of instances in this deck where you're going to get all your allies in play. So, of course, we play Nappa. We don't run any setups in this deck. I used to run Radar and Dragon Clan, but I found that I never really liked playing passively with this deck. I always liked going aggressive, and sometimes I would draw into those cards like on the defense and things like that, or I'd have Nappa in play and they would just sit out. So I just wanted to remove those and just have a dependence on Nappa. You can always have Nappa in play on the level 3. Like, they can't do anything to stop you from getting Nappa in play. So you can just keep them in play forever and just shut down setups. So why play them at all? Turles, a huge, huge powerhouse in this deck. Just makes backhand win. Just makes Chest Explosion win. We play several styled physical attacks in this deck. just pound the opponent with just damage and all day. And Captain Ginyu is a recent add-in here, actually. The UFC Wildcat, after I saw his sell list, I realized that I'm not playing Ginyu Ally. Why am I not playing Ginyu Ally? He's amazing. He lets you play around your opponent's hand, know when to use Sphere, know when not to play events, know when to Hurried Quest. This is a very techie control deck. It's aggro. It's physical aggro, but it also has some control elements as well. So it's very nice to be able to just look at the opponent's hand and know how to play around them. So now I don't play Zarbon in here, but I've been considering him. I don't want to get too heavy on the allies because they are dead draws, and I don't like drawing allies early game, guys. I like going aggressive, and even when I don't draw Dragon Balls, I can always pitch them for the mastery. But with allies, they're true dead draws. Now, granted, with the tutoring, usually I don't draw into them, usually. But if I start playing 7 or 8 allies, then you're definitely going to draw into them a lot, and it's going to get clunky hands and things like that. So that's it for the list, guys. So now let's go over how you're going to play and the strategy of this deck. Alright, guys, so now we're going to go over the strategy and how to play this deck. So you're going to start level 1, and this deck doesn't play that many planning cards. It plays 10, but a lot of the planning cards that we play, we tutor out. So you're going to want to go aggressive as fast as possible. And that is also given with the fact that you have 4 anger sitting on the level 1. So as soon as you start the game, you know you have 4 anger on the board. So you're going to be getting to the level 2. So you're going to want to go aggressive as fast as possible. So the first ally, obviously, that you're usually going to tutor out is Cell Jr. Trapped. He's going to be the ally that you want to stay on the board the most time. And you're going to want to learn, and this is kind of one of the nuances of the deck, you're going to want to learn how to effectively bounce allies in and out of combat in order to make the most use of this extra mill. It's a little bit difficult to do, and it requires some practice, but once you get it, you'll see the strength of this deck. So basically, if I draw my first couple cards, if I see a single anger or 2 anger cards in my hand, I'm going to enter combat pretty much guaranteed because I know I'm going to be able to just instantly jump up to the level 2. Now, the level 2 is amazing, and quite often I find myself just entering combat and just tutoring, escaping over and over and over again with the level 2 and just getting the 4-card mill over and over again. So I'll just sell power, banish escaping, 4-card mill. Enter combat, bam, get escaping back. Sell power, banish escaping, 4-card mill. So I'll do that over and over again. And it's actually a 5-card mill if you have these 2 allies in play. Because you'll mill the 3, you'll shuffle this guy, banish him, then this is your only ally, so you'll get 2 mill from this. And so you can start to see how you're going to want to stack effects in this deck to make the most use of the milling. So you can actually win the game on this level 2. I've done it several times. I've gotten to 3 and then been bounced down to 2, back down to 2, and I bounce up and down from 3 to 2. Sometimes ball 2 happens, the opponent steals your ball 2. You don't really care. So, and that's another point. Don't be afraid to play your own ball 2. If you get to 3 and you have the potential to ball 2 the opponent, but you're afraid your opponent is going to steal it, don't be afraid, because you can win the game on 2. It's fine. So like I said, in general, you're going to want to play aggressive with this deck. And cards that will make me want to go aggressive with this deck, 100%. Chest Explosion is a big one. I'll enter combat, especially if I have 2 of them in my hand. Am I going to enter combat? And of course, the most desirable thing that you're going to want to tutor with the Chest Explosion is Turtle as ally. Just here with this setup, Chest Explosion is coming in for 9 and 4. So that's 13 damage just here with this setup. And that's not counting if the opponent is a Saiyan, the opponent has Saiyan allies, and we do run a total of 5 Saiyan allies. So on our side of the board, the maximum damage potential of this card is 17. So this is a win condition alone. Like I said, this is a win condition. Then likewise, another card I'll go aggressive on is the Backhand. Of course, again, right here on the board, Backhand is hitting for 777, unpreventable. So that will just take a huge chunk out of the opponent. Very aggressive card. Other cards, if I get right throw with the ball in play, if I draw into a draining attack, or if I have some balls that I want to bounce and I draw into a Hurried Quest, These are all very aggressive cards that I want to enter combat on and I want to use as fast as possible. So it's pretty easy for this deck to jump up to the level 3. And once you're 3, it's very hard for your opponent to recover at that point. You've spent some time on the level 2, milling them, doing some damage with attacks. You'll hit level 3. You'll usually have 3 or 4 allies in play at this point. Shoot off your power once or twice and just seal the game. Now, I have hit level 4, and it's pretty good for you. You give up the ally tutor for a card tutor, which the card tutor usually is better, especially if you're getting like a Hurried quest or a hybrid defense. But you're going to want to usually de-level pretty quickly back down to the level 3. This deck can win by MPPV, but it's very difficult for it to. You have to kind of draw the right cards and not be faced with very much anti-anger. But it can threaten MPPV, so watch out for that, guys. Like, definitely pay attention to that. One combo that I wanted to talk about as kind of a closer is the combo with Hybrid Defense and Provocation and Flinch. This combo is spectacular. It is ridiculously powerful. And I've literally won games with this combo. So what you'll do is you'll use Hybrid Defense on, say, the level 2 or level 3. Let's say your ally setup is something like this. You have 2 allies in play. So let's say you're level 3. So you're gonna rejuvenate Flinch and 2 Provocations. Your last Cell Junior is in the discard pile. Now, because Cell's Provocation and Flinch are both rejuvenated by this single effect, they're competing effects. They're both when rejuvenated. So you can actually choose the order of Flinch and Provocation. So you activate Flinch first, play your last Cell Junior ally, and then activate both Provocation mills and mill for 6. Or, you can do, if you have no Cell Juniors in play, rejuvenate 2 Flinches and a single Provocation, so you mill 2. So there are a bunch of different ways you can kind of play around, and you can see how strong Hybrid Defense is in this deck. When I said Hybrid Defense is extremely strong in this deck, this is what I'm talking about. So that's pretty much it, guys. This deck is very fun to play. It's like ally bouncing, ball bouncing, mill, physical beatdown. This deck is so fun. I've been playing it a lot on stream, and I have a blast every time I play with it. So I suggest you guys build it. Try it out. Let me know in the comment section below how's it doing for you guys. And let me know, what do you think of Unleashed in Cell? Do you think Cell needs Unleashed? I don't think he needs it. But, if you guys have different opinions, let me know. I've been just fine with this deck without Unleashed, and I don't want to add it. So let me know, guys. Comment in the comment section below. Please don't hesitate to hit that like button if you like this video. And as always, turn your dial to Random Number Gaming for weekly updates for the Dragon Ball Z card game.